We are starting to read the book of Amos. Not the book of Amos, that was last week. Hosea we're doing this week, looking at the book of Hosea. And we're continuing the miracles in Matthew. And I think the book of Hosea might be helpful for us when thinking about what we're going through just now in this lockdown, even though we're coming out of it. And maybe there's something to think about now that we're coming out of it. The Lord in his text through the prophet Hosea is saying, and it's a beautiful text. It's really, really beautiful. It's such a loving text for us to read through, how God looks upon us, his people, as a beloved bride whom he is wooing, whom he is calling back. He's talking about luring her and leading her out into the wilderness. Just a little background information for you about Hosea. Hosea, called to be a prophet by God, he was to preach in the northern kingdom. If you remember, there's two kingdoms at that time, the kingdom of Judah in the south with Jerusalem as its center, and the kingdom of Israel. And Hosea was commissioned to preach, to prophesy in the northern kingdom. And the Lord told him to marry a whore. That was part of his life was going to be a prophecy. He was to marry this woman who would betray him over and over again and go and have relationships with other men. And this was symbolic of the people of Israel, you and I, that's how we should be reading it, who go and whore ourselves off to other gods. We place other gods as more important, and we end up having relationships with them rather than the Lord our God. But the Lord, these days, often people will say, we're supposed to when we get married, one of the questions that used to be asked, the phrasing has changed now. Do you enter into this marriage freely? What's the phrasing? Without. I've forgotten the phrasing. It's something like without conditions. I forget the exact phrasing. It's been a while since I've done a wedding, obviously. And so we're called to enter into the marriage without conditions. But one of the unspoken conditions that most couples these days go into the marriage with is, if they betray me, it's over. If they commit adultery, that's it. It's over. And that is a condition which really invalidates the marriage. And we see here how the Lord has wedded himself to his people without condition. They have betrayed him over and over again with their false gods. They have dirtied themselves. They have made themselves impure as they've committed adultery with other gods. And he wants to call them back to the wilderness, where there is nothing to distract them from him. And in a sense, what we've been going through just now with this lockdown is a wilderness. We've had a lot of the stuff that we would normally do that would distract our lives. We've had all of that taken away from us. And so we're being brought to a place where life is much simpler, and there's actually space for us to encounter God. And I know many of you have experienced that. This is the Lord luring us into the desert. He's removed all these things. Actually, through the coronavirus, that's what's happened. All these distractions have been removed for us, and we're able to encounter God. Encounter him. Recognize our need for him. To look at ourselves and see the impurity, my sin. To look at ourselves and realize I'm dead inside and I need to be brought back to life. He lures us out so that we can turn to him and fall in love with him once again and be cleansed, be washed clean, and be brought back to life. And so we see in the gospel the woman with the hemorrhage, made unclean by this blood flow. The Lord washes her clean, heals her of this hemorrhage, and brings her back into the bosom of the community. This daughter who is dead, who is separated now from the community through death, the Lord who is life comes and brings her back to life, back into the bosom of the community, to be one with the Lord and his people. It's his desire for you and I. We're coming out of this lockdown. My hope is that you will have encountered the Lord, had that desire to come to him during this period. And my hope is that you won't allow the distractions as they start to build up to now derail you from that and take you away to abandon him once more. You are loved. And the Lord desires love and faith in return.